respectively. Social polls conducted by the Center for the Study of Public Opinion in 14 Russian cities on January 18th and 19th indicate that 27% of those polled agree that the Russian government should resign. 48% disagree, and 25% had no response. In November of last year, Vice Premier Yegor Gaidar joked gloomily that our government is like a potato. If it doesn't come through in the winter, it will be planted in the spring. Apparently, in the fall, the Vice Premier was already prepared for the failure of his economic reform, but it still continues and it's too early to bury it, although there is no alternative program yet. According to the data of another poll conducted in 13 cities of the Russian Federation on January 25th and 26th, only 2% consider that their situation is better than they expected before the prices rose. The hopes and expectations of 25% were realized, but 68% believe the situation is worse than they expected. 5% had difficulty responding. Gaidar believes that in February, prices will rise another 4 to 5 times, which makes it hard to predict the future opinions of our fellow citizens. But the joke of our Vice Premier could come true. In a recent interview, the Vice Premier said that the Russian government does not plan to resign and will fight for reform to the end. But Gaidar did not say how the government plans to achieve the implementations of its ideas and plans. By the end of the first quarter of this year, inflation will be 1,200%. But Gaidar said that this figure is under control and conforms with the plans of the government. A group of specialists led by Professor Yevgeny Yeser said that the government's program is basically correct, but criticized it for inconsistency and insufficient determination in economic liberalization. He believes that the crisis will continue for 1.5 or 2 more years in Russia. Here's the most likely scenario. There will be inflation at the level of about 250 to 500% per year. There will be a fairly large budget deficit, which will be gradually shrinking, and we will continue to have a lack of equilibrium on the market. This means that the government will have to undertake serious stabilization programs for a long period of time. Academician Burlich disagrees. He rejects the strategy for a balanced budget as damaging to the production of goods. The government will face active and passive resistance, which it may not have counted on. The government must make concessions on these issues in order to calm the public mood. Without this, we cannot move forward. The Doctor of Economics, William Karlamutov, believes that the government should follow the French example. When there is no bread in the country and then prices are rising, everyone is unsatisfied. One of the most popular slogans was, "We support the sort of regime under which there is something to eat." The government should be able to do this, first of all. The only thing that is not in shortage today is criticism. But there is no alternate serious program which could compete with the government's experiment has not yet appeared. We are looking for people to blame not only among bureaucrats. We can also look for ghosts. This is an average house on the edge of a town, but miracles are happening here. We were sitting in our living room watching the game show Field of Miracles when water started flowing from the direction of the ceiling, pouring on me, on my wife who's standing here, and on my grandson Ruslan. Was it flowing from the ceiling? No, the ceilings were dry. We climbed up on a chair 4 times to check that they were dry. It wasn't flowing through. Water service has also been cut off in the local police chief, Mr. Malashin's house. Perhaps this is the most mysterious case of his whole career. Our camera crew secretly shot these pictures, indicating that by morning there were clues everywhere. But who is this devilish violator of the family's peaceful life? there are some kind of ghosts appearing. And they want to deprive all the houses of water, flowing it out into the streets. It's a real Soviet-style poltergeist. Here in our country, the desire to change things for the better rarely coincides with the opportunity actually to do that. Fortunately, not all dire predictions come true. Despite the predictions of many experts, foreign specialists, and the press, widespread unemployment has not yet hit Russia. The general director of the Moscow Labor Exchange, Igor Zaslavsky, says that despite the predictions of 25,000 unemployed people, there are only 12,000 people receiving benefits so far. The rate of new applications for benefits has not increased. Its average is 12,000 per month. Since this labor exchange was formed, 1,000 people have received a pension and 4,000 have found new jobs. The minimum unemployment benefit is 445 rubles a month, which attracts a certain clientele. Now Russia is awaiting the explosion of unemployment, but will it happen? Who knows? Strange things happen in our country. It's probable that at the labor market in the near future, many scientists will end up seeking jobs on this labor market. Many of them are losing their jobs, and we can further this thought by saying that if we lose them, we will lose our future. It's well known that all civilized countries invest in science. It's the future well-being of the society. We speak more rarely about scientific sensations, but they still happen. This new approach to treating hypertension can be called a sensation. It treats hypertension in its most acute forms. The medicine was prepared by the All-Union Cardiology Center. It's called a calcium antagonist. It operates on the cellular level in order to widen muscular blood vessels. But as important as this is the use is using medicine properly. This discovery opens a new page in cardiology. We have to decide, should we lower arterial pressure to the lowest possible level? No, it turns out. We should find the optimal level, or even a slightly elevated level, in preparing medications. We now have a medication which permits us to introduce medicine into the smallest capillaries in the brain. We've tested it on animals and monkeys, and in the near future we hope to do it with human patients. We can study in this way both the biochemistry of the brain, but an entire series of diseases. This proves that we need basic sciences. We need to study, and we hear the opinion in the streets and even in the parliaments that we need to stop funding basic research. But if we don't have basic sciences today, we won't have new medicines tomorrow. Yes, if we don't have basic science, we won't have any science at all. More economic news. Even freshmen in college are asking challenging questions to Professor Larisa Ryasheva. For example, who determined that price liberalization should come before privatizations, leading to the fact that we've created commercial structures without changing the existing form of property, i.e. a socialist form of property? Who called rapid privatization adventurous? The Moscow government has started a program of rapid privatization, and it's an avalanche. For 1992, 81% of local industry will be transferred into private hands, along with 88% of hotels, 86% of retail trade, and all of daily services and restaurants. Finally, after a long period of conflict between the Moscow government and the mayor of Moscow, a decision has been reached. But how will these properties be sold, privatized? With the building, together with the building, or without? We will sell the entire facility together. The work collectives, along with other legal and physical persons, have the right to obtain these facilities. Until January 6th, it was possible for labor collectives to obtain their places of work without competition. After that, they had to compete with other potential buyers. But this is all at the goodwill of the Moscow government. It's an inconsistency between Russian and Moscow laws. Who owns the city? The Moscow City Council, in the form of its property fund, creates itself as the owner of city property. But Andreev says that in accordance with the President Yeltsin's decree on privatization, the Moscow mayor's office will administer privatization. The question also arises of whether their new owners will change the activities of their stores or other facilities. It could happen that we will end up without any stores at all in a year. Of 36,000 places of retail, trade, services, and restaurants, only 65 stores have been prepared for privatization, but these documents still lack signatures. According to the press center of the Supreme Soviet of Nagorno-Karabakh, today an attack began by Azerbaijani forces. It is being conducted from the city of Agdan in the direction of Stepanakert-Khankindi. The Armenian positions took up defensive positions. The Azerbaijani Popular Front reports that the city of Agdan